The workshop hummed with the low, steady rhythm of alien machinery. Steam hissed through vents carved into obsidian walls, the smell of charged metal and ozone curling through the air. Every bolt, every spark, every rhythmic clang carried the pulse of a civilization that thrived somewhere between science and sorcery. Chiron, the human engineer, adjusted his gauntlets and tried not to look too nervous. Across from him stood the queen herself, blue-skinned, silver-haired, and armored like a goddess who had moonlight forged into steel. He'd seen alien royalty before, but nothing prepared him for Queen Sarathis of the Ardent Dominion. She didn't walk so much as glide, each movement precise enough to shame gravity into obedience. Her armor, what was left of it, lay in disassembled fragments across his workbench. The chest plate, cracked in two from a plasma strike, gleamed faintly in the light of the forge. It wasn't just a piece of metal. It was a work of art. Engraved veins of silver flowed like circuitry across its curve, pulsing faintly with her bioenergy. Chiron swallowed, realizing that fixing this thing wasn't just a job, it was practically surgery. One wrong weld and she could be vaporized by feedback from her own lifelink. "You're trembling," Sarathis said, her voice melodic yet sharp enough to cut through his thoughts. "Do humans always shake before they touch royalty, or are you simply that easily overwhelmed?" Chiron coughed, fumbling for his welding tool. "Just, recalibrating? Haven't had a sentient piece of armor threaten to explode on me before." Her silver eyes narrowed, and for a moment he could swear her faintly glowing pupils adjusted like a camera lens. "You worry too much. If it explodes, I die first. You'll have a solid 3 seconds to regret your mistake before joining me." "Comforting," he muttered, pretending to inspect the alloy while secretly trying to regulate his breathing. Faceless though the scene might appear on screen, the queen's features blurred in the artistic glow of the forge. Charon's expression hidden beneath his visor. The tension between them was palpable. Sparks lit their silhouettes, painting them in alternating strokes of light and shadow. He lifted the chest plate, its surface warm under the forge light, and aligned it with the intricate lock slots near her shoulders. She turned slightly, allowing him access. For a fleeting moment he realized how close he stood. Close enough to smell the faint metallic sweetness of her skin, like ozone after lightning. "Careful," she murmured as he positioned the clamps. "That part's sensitive." He froze. "I was just, adjusting the stabilizer node." "Of course you were." Her tone carried the kind of amusement that made him both terrified and flattered. Your kind always finds excuses to adjust stabilizers when something glows or curves. He could feel the heat rising to his cheeks beneath the visor. "In my defense, your armor does curve a lot." The queen tilted her head, silver hair sliding like liquid metal over her shoulder. "Flattery, engineer, is a dangerous lubricant. Apply it too thick and it makes everything slip." Chiron grinned despite himself. "I'll keep my compliments evenly distributed then." "See that you do." The rhythmic hiss of the welder filled the air. Sparks cascaded around them as he fused the split alloy, careful to keep his focus on the seam. Not the glow that pulsed faintly beneath it, not the steady rise and fall of her breathing. The sound of distant thunder rolled through the ship's hull, punctuating the intimacy of the forge. After several minutes, he risked conversation. "So, Your Majesty, what exactly happened out there?" "I thought royal escorts weren't supposed to let plasma bolts through your shields." "They weren't," she replied dryly. "But apparently my enemies discovered that protocol manuals are not bulletproof." He chuckled. "Guess not. You know, if you had a proper engineer on board, your shield capacitors could explode differently," she interrupted. "Safer," he corrected with mock offense. "At least it'd look more symmetrical." "Symmetry is overrated," she said, watching him with an inscrutable expression. "Chaos, however. Chaos builds empires." "That explains your management style," he said before he could stop himself. For a moment he thought he'd gone too far. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed, a low, rich sound that echoed through the chamber like a musical storm. "You have courage, human, or foolishness, possibly both. They usually come in the same package." She inclined her head slightly. "Good. I prefer my technicians bold." Keeps them from fainting during royal diagnostics, he smirked. Do you get a lot of fainting during those? You'd be surprised. Apparently, standing this close to me has physiological effects. He almost dropped his tool. Must be the radiation, he said quickly. Of course, she said, clearly enjoying his discomfort. That must be it. Another minute of silence passed, filled with nothing but the hum of alien tech. Then she spoke again, softer this time. You humans are interesting, so fragile, so persistent. You look at something impossibly dangerous and think, yes, I'll fix that. He shrugged. If we didn't, we'd still be poking rocks together for warmth. She smiled faintly. And now you poke quantum reactors for fun. Evolution is strange. Hey, he said, mock defensive. We're not that bad. Some of us even read the manual. Do you? Sometimes after something explodes. That earned him another laugh. Softer, more genuine. When the weld cooled, he stepped back, admiring the repaired plate. The faint energy veins pulsed evenly now, syncing with her heartbeat. There, he said. Good as new. Sarathis looked down at the polished surface, then back at him. Impressive. You've restored a relic of my empire. That earns you one question, human. Ask wisely, he blinked. Anything? One question. He hesitated, then said, Why me? Out of all the engineers in this sector, why request a human? She was silent for a long moment, her gaze unreadable. Then, with the faintest trace of a smile, she replied, Because humans are the only species foolish enough to fix a queen's armor without asking what damaged it. Before he could respond, a tremor shook the workshop, an explosion somewhere deep within the ship. The lights flickered, and the queen steadied herself against the workbench, her hand brushing his arm. The contact sent a faint static jolt up his sleeve. Looks like your enemies aren't done, he said. Neither am I, she replied, standing tall once more. Seal the armor. We're not dying here, engineer. Yes, your majesty. He fitted the last plate, the armor locking into place with a satisfying click. Energy surged through the suit, lighting her entire frame in a silver-blue glow. For a heartbeat, she looked less like a monarch and more like a living star. She turned to him, that same faint amusement back in her voice. You did well. Try not to die before I can properly thank you. Depends on what properly means, he said. She gave him a sidelong glance, her eyes glimmering. You'll find out. Assuming we survive the next 10 minutes, the alarms blared again, and the camera of the imagined faceless scene would pull back, smoke rising. Lights flashing red, the queen striding forward with inhuman grace while Karen followed, tools in hand and confusion on his unseen face. Somewhere between the chaos of battle and the awkward rhythm of banter, something else had begun to spark, something more unpredictable than plasma fire, and far more dangerous. And though neither of them said it aloud, both knew the same unspoken thought. This was going to get complicated. Smoke curled through the corridors of the Star Cruiser Eminence, the crimson emergency lights painting everything in pulsing rhythm. Chiron followed close behind Queen Sarathis, trying not to trip over the hem of his tool coat or stare at the way the metallic light rippled along her newly repaired armor. She moved like a storm that refused to be contained, controlled fury with good posture. Status report? He asked, jogging to keep up. 2 engines down, navigation offline, and someone's pet plasma eel has bitten through the coolant lines, she said, not breaking stride. In short, everything is on fire except me, and I intend to keep it that way. Good to know our priorities align, he muttered. They reached a junction where a holographic map flickered erratically. Sarathis waved her gauntleted hand through the static display, forcing it to recalibrate. We'll reroute through the reactor bay, she ordered. If we can stabilize the core, we can survive long enough to yell at whoever's still alive. Karen grinned under his visor. I like your optimism. It's inspiring and terrifying at the same time. It's called leadership, she replied. You should try it sometime, he gave a mock salute. I tried once. My toaster unionized. That earned the smallest twitch at the corner of her mouth. You're a peculiar creature, Engineer Karen. Peculiar keeps the lights on, he said, gesturing to the flickering panels around them. A tremor rocked the floor. The queen steadied herself against the wall, and without thinking, Chiron reached out to help. His gloved hand brushed hers. For a second, the world narrowed to the faint vibration of her pulse through the armor's circuitry. Then she pulled back, graceful, composed, as though the contact hadn't happened. "We should move," she said briskly. "Right," he answered, pretending his gloves hadn't just short-circuited from static. The reactor bay was chaos incarnate. Sparks leapt from broken conduits, coolant mist hissed from ruptured vents, and somewhere in the corner, a cleaning drone stubbornly tried to mop up an electrical fire. Sarathis strode straight through it like a war goddess in a mechanic's nightmare. Karen knelt beside the control console. "You weren't kidding about chaos. Would you prefer a tidy apocalypse?" she asked, not saying no. Easier to sweep up. He began rerouting power with deft motions, his fingers flying across alien keys. The console hummed in protest. "Your energy core is cycling itself into meltdown," he said. "If I patch the tertiary regulator, it might explode differently," she finished, echoing their earlier conversation. He shot her a grin. "Now you're getting it." "You're a bad influence, human," Flattery noted. The bay lights flickered again as he pried open a compartment. A surge of blue energy flared out, throwing light across both of them. For a moment, her faceless silhouette glowed against the storm of sparks, alien, regal, untouchable. Then she crouched beside him, her armor clicking softly. "I'll hold the conduit," she said. "You reroute the flow." He glanced at the cables, then back at her. "With all due respect, Your Majesty, if you hold that conduit, it could fry every neural circuit in your armor." "Then you'd better be quick." He hesitated. "You really don't do careful, do you?" Her voice dropped an octave. "Careful doesn't win wars, Chiron," he sighed. "Right. Brave Queen, reckless plan." "Got it!" As she gripped the conduit, the energy pulse surged through her armor. The air filled with a resonant hum. "Steady!" he shouted. "I'm perfectly—" Her voice broke as the charge intensified. "Fine. Fine?" he echoed. "Because you sound like a lightning rod with opinions." Despite the danger, she laughed, a breathless sound between pain and amusement. "Less talking, more rerouting." Karen slammed his hand on the override. The console sparked violently, then steadied. The humming dulled to a steady purr. Coolant vapors cleared as the core's light shifted from crimson to pale gold. The crisis, for now, was over. He exhaled hard, sitting back on the floor. And that's how humans do miracles on a deadline. Sarathis released the conduit, flexing her gauntlet as residual energy crackled along her arm. Efficient, chaotic, mildly suicidal. "I approve." He looked up at her, half smiling. "High praise from someone who commands an empire." "Temporary approval," she corrected. "Don't let it go to your head." Too late. The queen turned toward the viewport overlooking the starfield beyond. Fractured light scattered across her armor. "You risked much to fix this," she said softly. "Most would have waited for orders." "Orders are for people who aren't about to explode," he said. She regarded him for a long moment, then allowed a small, rare smile. "Perhaps your species isn't entirely hopeless. Coming from you, that's practically a proposal." Her laughter echoed lightly through the bay. "Careful, human. My culture takes sarcasm seriously. I'll keep that in mind if you ever hand me a ring or a laser cannon. Both work. Depends on the mood." A few minutes later, they stood amid the quiet hum of a stabilized ship. Alarms had faded to a calm amber glow. The cleaning drone rolled past, dragging a melted mop. Karen leaned against the wall. "You know, when I signed up for intergalactic repair duty, I didn't expect it to involve flirting with a queen during a reactor meltdown." "You call this flirting?" she said, feigning surprise. "I call it professional multitasking." She considered that. "Your kind is more entertaining than the reports suggest." "I'll take that as a compliment. It wasn't necessarily one. I'll take it anyway." A comfortable silence settled between them. Then she broke it. "Tell me, Karen, why stay? You could have escaped when the alarms first sounded." He shrugged. "Guess I didn't want to leave before I finished what I started." Her gaze lingered on him. "And what is it you think you've started?" "Something complicated," he said with a smirk. Her reply was quiet but deliberate. The most interesting things usually are. A soft tremor rippled through the floor again. Less a threat, more a reminder that their victory was temporary. She straightened, returning to her commanding tone. "We're not done yet. The attackers will return once they realize I'm alive." "And when they do?" he asked. She looked at the forge marks still faintly glowing on her chest plate. "Then they'll learn that this part is sensitive." He blinked. "Are you making jokes now? Perhaps I've been around you too long." "Dangerous habit. I've survived worse." He picked up his toolkit and slung it over his shoulder. "Well, Your Majesty, lead the way. I'll keep your armor shining and your enemies guessing." Her reply carried that familiar edge of amusement. "Do that, and you might just earn a place in my royal maintenance. Log. Romantic. Functional." They stepped into the corridor once more, the camera of imagination following, their faceless silhouettes as the glow of the reactor bay faded behind them. The tension between them hung in the air, light as static, waiting for its next spark. Somewhere deep in the ship, a new alarm began to pulse. A different tone this time, lower, slower, almost mischievous. Chiron sighed. "That doesn't sound like a good alarm." Sarathis tilted her head, her voice calm but amused. "No, that's the proximity alert," he groaned. "Please tell me it's friendly." "Unlikely. But look at the bright side. You get to fix something else." He managed a lopsided grin. "Story of my life." The corridor lights dimmed. The ship shifted course, and together, the cautious engineer and the impossible queen walked toward whatever absurdity waited next. The proximity alarm drummed through the ship like a heartbeat. Red light pulsed across bulkheads as the Eminence drifted through a debris field. Twisted metal, broken satellites, and the occasional floating toaster. Charon pretended not to notice the resemblance to his old unionized appliance. "Report," Queen Sarathis ordered, her voice calm but edged with steel. Charon slid into the navigation pit, fingers dancing over glowing runes. "Looks like we've got company. Small vessel. Stealth class. No transponder. Pirates," she said flatly. He whistled. "Bold of them to attack a ship that's still smoking. Bold or stupid?" She turned, silver hair catching the light. "Possibly both." "You'd get along," he grinned under his visor. "That's the nicest insult you've given me today." "Don't get attached to it." A tremor rippled through the hull, a warning shot. Charon steadied himself, grabbing the nearest console. Well, they knocked. "Should we invite them in?" "I prefer to answer with lasers," she replied, stepping toward the command dais. "Weapons online?" "Half of them," he admitted. "The other half are sulking. Fix them. I'm an engineer, not a miracle worker." "Be both," she said, and that tone, imperious but amused, somehow made him move faster. Minutes later, sparks filled the corridor again as he sprinted toward the secondary battery controls. The Queen followed, her armor glowing faintly from residual charge. "You really don't have to come with me," he said. "Royalty usually stays far from exploding corridors." "Royalty also has a duty," she countered. "And besides, if you die, who will make the witty comments?" "Finally, someone appreciates my talents. Don't let it go to your head. I'm trying." "But it's crowded in here." The door slid open to reveal the weapons core, rows of dormant cannons humming faintly. Charon knelt beside the master relay. "Systems locked in feedback. I'll need a manual reset." "Show me." He blinked. "You? With respect, Majesty, this is greasy, unglamorous work." "I command galaxies," she said, removing a gauntlet. "I can handle grease." He handed her a wrench shaped like a crystalline spine. "Then your Majesty should unscrew the quantum coupler, gently." She arched an invisible brow. "Gently? You forget who you're speaking to." "That's exactly why I said it." The Queen crouched beside him, armor plates shifting with fluid precision. Together they worked in silence for a moment, the sounds of tools and distant cannon fire echoing around them. Finally, Charon muttered, "You know, most people would consider this a bad date." Sarathis didn't look up. "And yet, here you are." "True. Guess I have a type." She allowed herself a small laugh. "And what type is that?" The kind who can vaporize me for bad jokes. Wise choice. Keeps relationships short. Before he could reply, the relay sparked to life. The weapon grid thrummed with renewed energy. He pumped a fist. We're back online. Well done, she said, standing. Let's remind the pirates why I'm not a diplomatic queen. Back on the bridge, Sarathis raised one elegant hand, and the ship responded as if it could feel her intent. Cannons flared, releasing streaks of plasma into the void. The enemy vessel tried to dodge, too slow. The explosion painted the stars in brief, silent fire. Chiron whistled. Efficient and dramatic. 10 out of 10. I don't aim for approval ratings, she said, though there was pride in her tone. You could have fooled me. The alarm faded. Quiet returned. For the first time in hours, the eminence drifted peacefully among the wreckage. Sarathis exhaled, the smallest sign of fatigue. Finally, silence. Don't jinx it, he warned. I don't believe in jinxes. Yeah, but they believe in you. That earned him another subtle laugh, the kind he'd learned was worth more than medals. They retreated to the forge chamber, where the queen's armor still glimmered faintly from his repairs. Chiron powered down his tools and leaned against the workbench. So that's twice today we didn't die. Starting to feel like a habit. Try to keep it that way, she said. You ever think about taking a break? From ruling an empire. From trying to explode with style. Her lips curved faintly. What would I do instead? I don't know. See a few planets, try the local cuisine, meet new life forms who don't immediately shoot at you. That sounds suspiciously like an invitation. Depends. Do you like spicy food and near-death experiences? I already have one of those, she replied. Then we're halfway to a perfect evening. For a moment, the light softened. The forge's fire cast their silhouettes in gold. She turned toward him, her tone shifting. You risk much for someone who owes you nothing, he shrugged. Guess I like fixing things, even people. Dangerous hobby. I make it work. Her gaze lingered on him. Human, she said finally. If you were part of my empire, I'd have promoted you by now. To what? Head of unnecessary heroics. I'd put that on a business card. An alert chimed softly, a system notification this time, not an alarm. Karen checked the console. Looks like the engines are stabilizing. We've got full propulsion again. Good, she said. Set a course for Ardent Station. We'll repair properly there. He hesitated. You sure they'll welcome a human mechanic on your flagship? I'm the queen, she replied. If they don't, I'll remind them, he chuckled. Royal perks, exactly. Now, engineer, take the helm. You trust me with your ship? She stepped closer, the faint hum of her armor filling the space between them. I've seen what you can do under pressure. If the ship survives your humor, it can survive anything. He saluted lightly. Your confidence terrifies me. As it should. He turned to the controls, entering the coordinates. The stars stretched into long threads as the eminence slipped into warp. The hum of the engines deepened into a steady, calming rhythm. For the first time since he'd boarded, the silence felt comfortable. He glanced toward her. So, after all this, what happens when we reach your station? She folded her arms. Repairs, debrief, possibly court-martialing whoever scheduled me a meeting during an ambush. And me? Her tone softened slightly. You'll be compensated and perhaps offered a new post. Still dangerous? Always, he smiled. Then it's a maybe. Hours passed in warp. The ship dimmed to night cycle lighting, soft blue glows tracing the corridors. Chiron found himself back in the forge, staring at the tools scattered across the bench. Behind him, Sarathis entered quietly. You're still working, she said. Habit. Things feel too calm. She approached the repaired chest plate, brushing a finger across the polished surface. You did more than fix this, she said. You reminded me what resilience looks like. He looked up. That almost sounded like gratitude. Almost. Careful, Majesty. You'll ruin your reputation for ruthlessness. Perhaps I need a new reputation. Kind but terrifying queen has a nice ring. She laughed softly. You presume much. Occupational hazard. The silence stretched again, comfortable but charged with the same energy that had filled the forge earlier. Finally, she said, Rest, Karen. Tomorrow we face politics. It's far more dangerous than pirates. I'll keep my toolkit ready. Do that. She turned to leave, but paused at the doorway. And engineer, yeah? Next time you repair my armor, try not to enjoy it so much. He grinned. No promises. She shook her head faintly and disappeared down the corridor, her silhouette fading into the blue light. Karen leaned back against the bench, staring at the faint shimmer of her energy trail. Careful, he muttered to himself, echoing her words. That part's sensitive. Somewhere deep in the ship, the engines purred like a satisfied beast, carrying them toward whatever came next. The ship hung in orbit above a sapphire planet, its hull gleaming like a half-melted moon. Inside the Royal Bay, the hum of engines mixed with something far less mechanical, laughter. The kind that came only when war had been narrowly avoided and two people realized they might actually like each other after all. Zira leaned back against the viewport, her freshly repaired armor catching the glow of distant starlight. So, she said, tilting her head just enough that her crown of metal thorns glimmered, how does it feel to have negotiated peace between two galaxies using nothing but awkward small talk and a wrench? Kale gave a modest shrug. Honestly, easier than explaining to your mother why I was holding your chest plate. She pretended to think, then said, I still don't think she believed you were adjusting armor. She kept saying a likely story. Human. She's not wrong. Zyra's grin was slow and deliberate, equal parts royal and mischievous. You were nervous. Kyle opened his mouth, then realized every possible reply could be turned into a double entendre. No comment, Zira laughed, a soft echoing sound that made the air feel lighter. It wasn't the laugh of an alien queen, but of someone learning how to stop being one for a moment. The ship's systems pinged, reminding them that the universe, unlike them, had schedules to keep. Time to meet the Planetary Council, Kale said, tapping his data pad. You're supposed to give a speech about unity, hope, all that inspirational stuff. Zira groaned. Do you know how hard it is to sound noble after you've spent the morning arguing with a coffee dispenser? You could just wing it, Kale offered. You're good at speeches, especially the part where you glare at people until they agree with you. I learned that from you. Hey, she smirked. You glared at me the first time we met. I thought you were going to vaporize me. I was considering it. There was a pause. One of those rare, quiet moments where even the background hum of the ship seemed to hush in respect. Then Zira looked at him with that dangerous half-smile again. You know, she said softly, in my culture, saving someone's life and then touching their armor means you're bound. Kale blinked. Bound as in romantically? As in permanently? Oh, he coughed. Right. No pressure then. She stepped closer, the silver patterns on her skin glimmering faintly with bioluminescence. Unless, of course, the other person doesn't want to be bound. I didn't say that, Kale blurted. I mean intergalactic paperwork? It's probably complicated. Zyra's laughter interrupted him again. Relax, human. I'm teasing you. He exhaled with visible relief. Good. For a second there, I thought I'd accidentally proposed. Her eyes narrowed with playful sharpness. Accidentally? He froze. I walked right into that, didn't I? Right into orbit, she said. Then, after a beat, softer. But if you ever did mean it? Kale's reply got lost somewhere between his throat and his brain. He didn't need words. The look between them said enough. That strange, new kind of affection that existed halfway between a treaty and a joke, between laughter and gravity. The intercom buzzed. Queen Zyra, Captain Kale, the council awaits. Zyra sighed. Duty calls. Kale offered his arm with a grin. Your Majesty. She hesitated, then took it. Don't call me that in front of them. Makes me feel old. What should I call you then? She looked him dead in the eye. Zyra. Or... Her voice dropped, full of mischief. Whatever you whispered the last time you fixed my armor. Kyle turned the color of a red supernova. That was not... Careful, she whispered, leaning close. That part's sensitive. His jaw dropped. You remembered. I never forget good diplomacy, And just like that, they stepped into the grand hall together, the Blue Queen and the bewildered human, partners in peace, chaos, and whatever came next. The council rose as they entered. Zira raised her chin, regal once more, and began her speech. Her words echoed through the chamber, elegant, powerful, and just political enough to make everyone nod approvingly. But only Kale noticed that when she spoke of new alliances built on mutual respect, she flicked her gaze toward him, smirking ever so slightly. Later, when the applause faded and the crowd dispersed, Kale found her alone by the balcony overlooking the stars. He leaned beside her, keeping his tone casual. "So, Your Majesty, what now?" Zira didn't look away from the stars. "Now, we keep the peace. Build bridges. Laugh at the absurdity of it all. Together?" She finally looked at him, that same teasing smile returning. "Unless you plan to run away before your armor-fitting appointment tomorrow," he groaned. "You're never letting that go, are you?" "Never," she said. "But don't worry, I'll be gentle." "See, that's exactly the kind of thing you say that makes me nervous." "Good," she replied with perfect calm. "It means you're paying attention." For a long moment they stood there, a queen and a mechanic, two silhouettes framed by the endless cosmos. The stars stretched out around them, infinite and absurdly beautiful. Then Zira spoke again, her voice soft but sure. "You know, Kale, the galaxy's big. Plenty of people out there need saving." He smiled. "And armor fixing." "And chest plates," she added. They both laughed, the kind of laugh that promised there would be more of them. More absurd situations, more arguments about protocol and sarcasm and coffee. Because somehow, in the middle of diplomacy and disaster, they'd found something even rarer than peace. Someone who understood their humor. Zira extended her hand. "Come on, mechanic. The universe isn't going to fix itself." Kyle took it. "Yes, ma'am. But fair warning. If another chest plate breaks, I'm charging overtime." "Noted," she said, her smirk returning. "And double pay if I whisper again?" He grinned. "Triple if you mean it." Their laughter echoed down the corridor as they disappeared into the hum of the ship, leaving behind only the faint trace of something both cosmic and deeply human, affection wrapped in sarcasm, hope disguised as banter, and somewhere, far away, the stars themselves seemed to wink. If you smiled, snorted, or quietly fell in love with the chaos of Queen Zira and Captain Kale, buckle your armor and stay tuned. Their next mission might just involve a galactic misunderstanding, a runaway robot, and way too much interspecies flirting.